exclusive. And Vlad, it's been a while, man. Glad you're on the show. It's going to be fun to catch up. What's going on?
I am prepping my Corona Gorda and having a blast. As you can see, it's a little windy in Vegas. You can't tell by my usual hairstyle, but it's there.
Very nice.
Which is also the reason why this lighter came to be.
That's the dual flame, right?
Yeah, and I love using a single torch. So I just got really frustrated that I couldn't use it for because it was windy, and Vegas does get super windy. So it just ended up being a fun experience.
Yeah, makes sense. Mm-hmm. Product of necessity. So how's it been going, man? Like I haven't talked to you. I mean, we DM back and forth, chit chatting on Instagram, but we haven't spoken to each other in a long time. How's things going with Somm? Gearing into a busy season of cigar releases and all that stuff coming up.
So knock on wood, Somm's doing really well. We've at the end of last year, I think I hit close to 100 and something stores. So really exciting about that. That's ahead of schedule. Not something I was kind of expecting. So this is definitely something exciting. Good for growth. TP was awesome. We added a bunch of I have raccoon eyes, so you guys just got to deal with the glare.
You're good.
So TP was really good. I didn't expect it to be that solid. Added another probably 15 retailers. Nice. And then added 2 more brokers. So very exciting to have a little more presence around the country. I do have one more thing, and I've done last year. I did the BDX in a Corona Gorda size. I'm going to have a follow-up to the BDX Blanc, but it's going to be in a pyramid. Very small, very limited release. That was originally planned for PCA. So I'll keep you guys posted on it.
Okay.
Nice.
Is that going to be limited through certain retailers? Like
probably
a True LE?
The original 13, yeah. True LE, a couple of small amount of cigars. I'm trying to do the exact how I'm going to do the box design. I did start doing 3D printed boxes for the Blanc, which was something really exciting. We did at which was something we really excited that we kind of unveiled the TPE. So that's something different to my knowledge. Nobody else is really doing it. So we're starting off with that. And I think for this release, I'm going to try and do a limited one-off design. Someone's using a DuPont, right, Mike?
Don't mind me.
So yeah, that's kind of it. I'm working on the design. I'm torn between. It'll probably be a 5-count, reminiscent of the Premier Crew. So maybe not quite the same level because it's rather than having 7 coats of lacquer or magnet, etc. It is going to be 3D printed, but I'm really leaning into this whole like reusable side of things, where it might be a carry case as well.
Cool. That's pretty cool. I know Felipe and I both have 3D printers. I believe we have the same printer. We saw you using a TP, the Bamboo Lab one.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I got to get the files because that looks so cool. Like, what sparked that along? Just trying to be a little different, or is it the reusable aspect that you're looking at?
I wasn't really. About a year ago, I really dove into it and then realized that this is a whole nother skill set that I got to develop. And then I ran into some mutual friends, and I was like, oh, they started doing it as well. And they said they do design services. And then one of them is an industrial engineer, or at least self-taught, not that he designs at an industrial level. So I ended up working with them. It took about 2 months to actually nail down how I wanted the BDX Blanc to look at. But the real necessity, I guess, would be I wanted to protect my supply chain. I'm not a control freak in a sense that like, oh, it's got to be this way. Like it's got to be, tight. It's just, I like to have control when it comes to quality and, supply chain, especially when you order in the countries that the cigars are made, whether it's via Honduras or what have you, it might be lead time is a moving target. So this way I control everything. Plus, owing to my hospitality background, I kind of wanted to be able to customize things. So how cool would it be like, hey, we're going to have, let's say for 2 years in. Oh my God, that's awesome. I just saw the message downstairs. That's amazing. Okay, so let's say a year from now, it's the anniversary, or 2 years from now, or 5 years, right? We do a set that's like a 5-count case, and it has each of your names on it, right? Wouldn't that be cool? Wouldn't it be cool that you're a retailer and you have a customer that you want to, it's their birthday or whatever, they love Somm, and I'm like, cool, here's for Mike's birthday, right? And we'll make it for him. That's kind of the ultimate goal. But again, it might be a little farther out.
Yeah, that's nice though. The personal touches like that makes it special for the consumer and the connection between you as a retailer or a brand, So that's a pretty cool idea. But let's get into the cigar a little bit. Let's talk about what we're smoking tonight. The BDX Blanc, Corona Gorda.
Delicious.
What's the details on this thing?
All right, the deets. Going from the outside, working our way in. So first things first, you guys can all tell that this is a slightly darker version of Connecticut, right? Like definitely darker on the shading scale. So going, 1 to 7, this would probably be all the way up to a 5. I figured this out about 2 years ago, maybe 3. A factory that supplied one of the brands ended up having a darker run of Ecuadorian that was just slightly longer fermented. And I really like the profile because it's a little bit different, but it also adds a touch more body. So when I did the Ecuadorian Connecticut for this, I told them for the wrapper selection, they can go a shade extra. So that's really interesting. That's slightly different because I've had a lot of retailers that go like, this is a Connecticut? And I'm like, yeah, it is. Ecuadorian Connecticut on the outside, Ecuadorian Habano to balance out, right? It's properly fermented. It's clean. All right, Whittleback Cigars. I am the owner, blender, sales rep, janitor. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, everything.
One-stop shop.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the short of it, huh? So, right, you get the sweetness, the creaminess, the vanilla, and all the other stuff from Connecticut. Then it morphs into baking spices from the Ecuadorian Habano. Super interesting because depending on how you treat it, it can go anywhere from relatively light as like a backup dancer to it can actually shine in the blend. And then you get into the fillers of the cigar. So that's where the really interesting part. It has 4 different fillers, which is, when's the last time you had a Connecticut with that much stuff going on in there?
Right.
You have 2 different Nicaraguan tobaccos, Viso and Seco. You have Honduran as well in there. And then the little like chef's kiss, just a pinch of salt that ties it all together, Dominican Piloto Cubano. So everything's 3 to 4 years of age. And the main difference between the regular Blanc and this is there's a little bit extra Dominican Piloto here, which changes the profile a little bit. So it pushes it from this light to medium to light to medium to solid medium very easily, and it's very apparent. Plus, because it is a Corona Gorda, right, we go into the ratios and the differences between the ratio, right? Like, so you'll have a slightly larger impact of that extra shading or darker version of the Ecuadorian.
Very cool. And as far as flavor notes for the panel, what are you guys getting out of the cigar? We usually go around and see what everyone's getting out of the cigar, checking in.
Let's hear it if my copy's really good.
We'll start off with Roger at the bottom.
So I'm getting a bit of floral note, like a little bit, and I'm getting a little bit of nuttiness. I'm getting like a tiny bit of, not so much of sweetness, but like the taste of like some type of stone fruit. And I don't want to compare your cigar to another one, Vlad, but I'm getting like very, like, there's something in the aftertaste that reminded me, because I was like, what cigar does this remind me of? Like a little bit of like Martinique. That's like, it's kind of giving me a hint of that, which I love the Martinique. So for
comes
me,
out of KBF, so I'll take that as a huge compliment. Plus, Darren's okay. I love his branding. Really beautiful. It does have that stone fruit. I almost never highlight fruit notes in cigars because it's not something we typically run into. But you're right. There is a stone fruit. And like, if I have to be very specific, I would go with this ripe peach in there. almost like slight tinge of bitterness to it, but not really. That's really, you got a solid palate. Maybe you should review cigars.
No, trust me. You should watch his videos. He shouldn't review cigars.
Just overview. Just overview.
Yeah, just over.
What about you, Michael? What are you getting out of this cigar? Anything different?
There's definitely a difference between this Connecticut and most Connecticut's, right? There's more body, there's more spice, especially on the retro hail in the first third, like just starting off. There's definitely still the creaminess, the nuttiness, but there's enough of it to where, like, I'm sitting here sipping on this Hawk and Horse Vineyards cab from 2008, which I think that Vlad will probably recognize. I have, for being that the cigar is going to get up to medium, I have a little bit of their port too. So we're going to pair that up tonight too. But yeah, it pairs very well, even with the tannins on the cab, which I probably wouldn't normally go red wine, especially with the Corona Gorda, but I think this one pairs up quite nicely so far.
Very nice.
Can I just interject and
Yeah.
ask questions?
Let's do it.
This is for Mike specifically. So, all right, first off, would you give this cigar to someone who's like, I don't like Connecticut's? That's the first question. Like, would this be your choice for, like, I don't like Connecticut's? Oh, is this for you?
Possibly.
All right, we're not debating here. We're not in a political situation.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, yeah, like if somebody didn't like Connecticut's, you could probably get away with it. But I mean, if somebody didn't like Connecticut's as well, like if they're just going after like Pennsylvania broadleaf, this
wrong,
is also
right?
not. Yeah, this is not gonna do it for them.
You're like, hey, can I have tequila? I'd be like, man, do I have a bourbon for you?
Right. Exactly.
Okay, fair enough. The second would be, how do you find the pairing between the fruit forwardness of that cab, which is, okay, it's 7 years young now, but it is still relatively broad-shouldered. Do you see the body overwhelming the cigar, or does the actual flavor profile not only stand up to it, but actually add something, vice versa?
Well, this is 17 years young. This is 2008.
Oh, I thought it was 2018. Holy shit.
No, it's
Nice.
2008.
Nice.
Yeah. So it's probably still a little more broad shoulder, but I mean, like the nice thing about this particular wine is that there's like a little bit of Petit Verdot in there and a couple of other little things to kind of soften up those tannins. And I think once again that like the body of the cigar and everything, even in the first third, is balanced and still creamy enough and nutty enough to kind of like play off of it.
Cool. I think it'll go really well with the port, especially.
Yeah, that's going to be the star of the show tonight.
I think so. Cool. All right.
Back to flavor notes. Matt, you getting anything different?
This is good, Vlad. This is very good. I remember. Yeah, it's palatable. I remember the Robusto that I smoked. It took till like the end of the first third to get like flavors that I was really enjoying, just because it was so mild to start. This Corona Gorda, from the get-go, it's just sweet. It's very sweet. A very sweet cigar, creamy, not spicy. If somebody's open to Connecticut's, this would be a good option. But obviously, like you guys said, PA broadleaf, Connecticut broadleaf, no, this is not for that palate. But somebody that has like semi-interest in that type of cigar, this is great because there's so much body, especially that ring gauge, like the condensed flavors with that ring gauge. This is my favorite iteration of the Blanc, this size. It's very good.
Yeah.
All right, Felipe, flavors for you?
Yeah, man, I'm getting straight buttered toast, man. It's delicious. There's a floral note, and I don't know if you guys get like buttered toast and put some jelly on it. That's like, there's a little sweetness there. It's fantastic, and it's burning beautifully too. So
liquid jelly's coming. Switch over right now.
Carpy, what are you getting, man?
Man, the only thing I'm really noticing that I don't think anybody else has said is like on the finish, there's a really nice like bready, almost like pastry like note with a mild nuttiness. There's a really creamy mouthfeel on it.
Yeah, I could see that. A lot of the same notes for me. I am pairing tonight with some Red Breast, some PX edition. And I think what this is bringing out, I'm getting like a really nice nutty citrus kind of zest to the cigar. And I'm sure that's the whiskey helping it along. But a lot of the nuttiness that you guys are describing, I have that little butter toasty kind of bread component too. It's really good from the start. This cigar rated really well, I know, with a lot of people last year, Vlad. I'm sure you saw that in the end of year wrap ups and all that. So that must have been pretty cool to see.
It was really cool to see, and I appreciate it because there's not a lot of light cigars that end up on any kind of lists. It's just not right what most people go for. So just to get a little bit of like, hey, it's smokable, palatable, right? I'm happy with that. And it's also interesting, right? Especially for my own palate, I have just gone away from smoking a lot of really full cigars, and I've just gone over to, I'm just going to smoke some like light to medium stuff. In fact, when I was just in California recently, we ended up doing 2 different light to medium cigars, Blanc being one of them. So that was pretty interesting, for especially like late at night. Yes, sober cigars, right? Sal, I got to give that man a shout out. We had an interesting discussion about all the light cigars. So it was really good.
Speak of the devil, there he is.
So
Hey, Sal.
So if you guys have
It's
any
the
questions in
Toro.
the chat, please, throw it in there. Felipe will be monitoring the chat because we're always a little bit behind. But if he sees any questions that you guys have for Vlad on the, the Somm aspect, the blending of the cigars, what's like running a company, whatever, he's an open book. He said no topics are off limit. So throw some questions out so we can nerd out.
Wow, way to start off. How close to chest blends match? Yeah, hell yeah. No horror stories. I'm very happy that I work with 2 really, really good factories that I trust. One is Eladio Diaz that makes the Rioja. The other one is FTC or Cavalier. Brian and Sebastian both being good friends, and also where 2 of the cigar lines come from. No horror stories. They're really good, especially the way the Honduran broadleaf was purchased. So kind of going back to that protection. Oh wow, that's a good dad joke. Smoking something. I got to remember that one. I got the Get Some hashtag, which was from one of our friends that just randomly threw it, and I'm like, yeah, that sounds really good. Someone had the accessory line, some things, but it's SOMM, just like he wrote it, and I'm like, some SOMM accessories or something like that. I gotta find it. So yeah, definitely the punniness in there. But no real horror stories. I tend to blend everything to size some. So when I do nail the blend, I'll iterate and I'll figure out which size rather corresponds to the blend the best. So for the BDX Blanc, it went for the following iterations for the 2 regular production blends, right? So you have the 5.5 by 52 Robusto and a 6.5 by 54 Toro. Now, each of those is the sizes. You could look at them as a way to tell a story, right? So you have the option, if you do a Petit Robusto, that's going to be your Hemingway, right? Like short story, very much to the point, very journalistic. And then you can have a double Corona, which is going to be very Tolkien-esque, where you're going to start and explain the tree looks like this for three pages, right? So it helps to kind of look at those formats the same way. When I'm doing the Robusto, I started with a 4 3/4 by 48, going all the way up to 54. Then 5 by 48, going all the way up to 54. Then repeat for each iteration. Out of all of those, the 5.5 by 52 showed the best, highlighted everything, very, very specifically what I wanted the blend to be. Now, that being said, while blending it, I ended up making the BDX Blanc, the box pressed one. That actually has a half leaf extra of Dominican Piloto, which makes it fuller. Also, the box pressing changes the profile a little bit, the way it interacts with your palate. So if you're looking for a slightly fuller expression, I think it was Sal who didn't like it initially when we talked about it. So he said, I didn't like it. I didn't expect it to be as full compared to what I typically enjoy, which again, it's variation on the theme. And then same thing for the Toro, right? Started at 6x48 and then went all the way up to, 6.5x56 ultimately, and 54 was the best one that showed. Same thing for the Rioja. That's why there's not everything is a 5x50 Robusto or a 6x52 Toro. It really is blended to size where I know what this blend is supposed to be, and that's what it's supposed to be.
Very cool. What's up, Money Matt?
Is
First time
the-
getting about Somm?
Is the pyramid is the ratio or the blend shifted for the pyramid? Can you talk about that, or do you want
A
to?
little bit. So it's a 6x52 pyramid. All right, it's cone. It does have a little bit extra Dominican Piloto. So not only is the shape going to be different, but also the blend very, very interesting, and it pushes the flavor profile, pushes the body rather from, again, light to medium to starts off light to medium, moves into medium, and kind of stays there, like very solidly, very present, silky smooth, same, right? Silky smooth smoke, absolutely delicious, complex, everything but the kitchen sink.
Nice. Looking forward to it.
Coming soon. I'm also going to do something different. So it's not going to launch at the same time. I don't know if anybody's ever done it that way, but we're going to make it. It's going to start shop by shop. So one shop's going to get it. When the shop sells out, it's going to go to the next one, so on and so forth. There's going to be
That's
about
cool.
13.
It's going to be like a tour. That's cool,
Yep.
man.
And we're going to start in California, go from north to south.
I don't mind that.
As long as it doesn't make its way to the East Coast last, sprinkle in some East Coast before you go back to the West Coast, okay?
Nah, he'll be round out. He'll be round out by then. It's okay.
One of my good friends ended up getting, I think we double shipped into Lanceros. So he was very happy about that. I didn't know. I saw him on Monday, so that was a fun experience. He's like, "Man, thank you for sending us a lot of it." I'm like, what do you mean?
Well, we had a question here from Money Matt. He wants to say it's the first time hearing about Somm. How long have you been around?
So originally, it was 2022. It started as me trying out the Honduran broadleaf, which just nobody was using at the time. There's only 3 cigars, to my knowledge, that use it at the moment. Mine being one of them. And the BDX blend, was essentially available in 13 original stores after the 13 colonies. So these are all friends that we've worked together for 5+ years. We've been good friends. We've shared food, right? Like broke bread, shared food. We're friends. I know their families, their significant others, pets, kids if they have them, right? So very, very close friends. So that's kind of where they went. 2025 Pepsi Zero Sugar.
I love everybody throwing out the years on their sodas.
I was like, wait, is this some like LE version?
No, they're just trolling me. That's all.
Just jackasses.
2022.
All right. It's good. It's good. Do you have the bottling month for the Pepsi?
Yeah, right.
We
need the can code, please.
Yeah, the carton code. All right. Sal asks how many variations. So I want to say I nailed it like on the first try, but it really wasn't. I had an idea what I wanted to be, and I essentially tried 3 variations where I said, okay, variation 2 is going to be the one that ended up in regular production. However, variation 1 is the LE version, right? The one with extra Dominican Piloto. I set out to make a full flavor, light to medium cigar, which I think is kind of difficult to achieve because you can easily ramp up the body. That's not difficult, right? Add Ligero. Okay, problem solved. And the nicotine strength. But to make a flavorful, light to medium cigar, I think that's a good challenge. And I liked where I got. But going back to that first iteration with extra Dominican Piloto, that ended up being pushing it from light to medium, which is not what I wanted. I wanted to create a cigar that you can give to someone who's never had a cigar, right? This is your Macallan 12 of cigars, right? Like if you give it to someone who's never had Scotch before, they'll be like, oh, this is nice. But if you give it to someone who really likes Scotch, they'll be like, it's still Macallan 12, right? Like,
right.
cool. This is really interesting. As you know, there's a reason why it's popular. So that's kind of what I set out to make. Not that I'm saying it's going to be on the same scale, because I'm probably going to miss about 100,000 million billion cigars, but that's kind of the idea. Like, I wanted to make it approachable and easy to understand for a novice smoker. And then if you are an experienced smoker, which I believe there's seven of us, so there's at least six of us here. I would say that this delivers as well, right? You guys all talked about the complexities. Different people picked up different things, so I feel that kind of hit where it's supposed to go.
Has there, like, to piggyback off like the sizes and the test blends, is there a size that you just have not been able to nail down that you want to make, but it's like you can't get the blend right in that size or vitola or whatever?
That's a great question. So thinking about the blends, no, I got to be honest, I haven't gone past 6x60, which I don't smoke larger ring gauges than that. The 6x60 and the BDX that I did make, I'm going to give out the shout out to the exact retailer that actually pushed me to make this. It's Embassy Cigars in Brea, California. Angel is a friend, and he's the one who pushed me to add the additional that 6x60, because he said, hey man, this is like the greatest size. People get requested, blah, blah, blah. I go, I don't really like that size. So I compromised and made a box pressed, which is really a 54 or 56, depending on, you know, what it ends. You use 4 or 5 ring gauges. Luckily, again, worked with FTC. They make a great number of box press cigars, so I wasn't worried. That was perfect. I haven't made anything smaller than a Lancero, but also, to be fair, I can't remember. Actually, that's a lie. I remember I smoked the Ninfa from Crux, I believe.
Crux, yeah.
And that's a 26 ring gauge, 27. Someone correct me, like fact check me on that.
It's very thin. Yeah, it's like a Panatella.
Yeah, it's. I've also been shown how to smoke it, because apparently I have a peasant palate and I did not know how to smoke that cigar properly. Mike, and I think it was you. No, it was someone in the shop showed me how to actually do it. He's like, yeah, like we always had brushes.
At Infuega?
It was actually at Helios.
Oh, okay.
So Jesse explained it to me how to do it, and it was essentially do actually a deeper V-cut, and it just perfection, and you'll never run into any kind of draw issues. Where I was like, oh, like I wish I knew that earlier. All right,
I like Jesse. Jesse's a V-cut guy at heart.
Yeah. Straightforward to get your hands on leaves. You want to use it, or do you have to use what's available on the market? Well, no. Typically, apart from that Honduran broadleaf, which we kind of bought whatever we needed, everything else is readily available, or the factory uses. So one of the important parts is to kind of protect your supply chain and say, okay, if I am going to make a limited edition, or a limited production, it's going to be something that I can't get readily available, right? It's not like I can drive down to Costco. It'll be like, hey, there's this like one bottling that we did. Think of it as single barrel bourbon, right? Or like this particular piece is only going to be available in this 1 year. So let's make something special with it. As for regular production things, I'm using stuff that is relatively regularly available. So like Ecuador and Connecticut, like, yes, you know, they had a bad crop year, or they had weather issues and like whatever, but you can still find it. You know, getting your hands on something like Cameroon might be more difficult. And I don't think I'd ever make a regular production with that, because there's big players in the industry that have cornered that market, have used it for decades, and they are going to get the primo stuff because of the relationships, because of the everything, right? Sure. So for me to show up, get probably substandard leaves to what they get, and pay a hefty price, I don't see the value of it. I am playing around with a medio tiempo, which we can go into marketing term, not marketing term, for one of the blends, but I actually have it here. Don't tell him.
Ooh.
So we'll see how that goes. I've shared my struggles with a couple of you guys that like I can't make. Let me retrace that. It's not like I can't make. I can't find a full-bodied, full-strength pepper bomb blend that I really enjoy, because that's not something I regularly smoke. So I'm trying to retrain myself and my palate and buy and smoke cigars that I consider are the benchmarks. I won't share them because they don't need any more. They don't need any more advertisement. They do well enough on their own. But I'm essentially retraining myself, and I think it's very, very important to do that, especially if you're a brand owner, cigar maker, or whatever. Mike and I knows like I smoke everything under the sun for one simple reason: you can't develop palate blindness. This is no different than a winemaker that only drinks their own wine. Like, no, if you're a winemaker in Santa Barbara County, like, go and drink Burgundy, like, go and drink Bordeaux, go and drink, Virginia wine. Like, try Canada. Actually, don't. Tariffs and all that. But still, right? Like, you want to go outside your regular comfort zone and try, because there are people who are better at what you're trying to do. So if you can't really take the phone up and say, hey, XYZ, a brand owner that I really admire and that's been in the game for 20 years, like, how do you really do this? So I'll do the next best thing. I'll grab one of their beautiful blends, and like, I'll dissect it and try to see what they did here, and try to learn from it. There's a question: where does the name Somm come from? Somm is short for sommelier. That's how I got exposed to cigars. Wow, way to carbon date me, buddy. In 2009. In 2009, I did my introductory Somm training in Europe, and we had 2 days of cigars. One was just theory, and then the history, how the tolas, etc. And then the second day was pairing, and it went from water, coffee, teas, which we've just done a great pairing with tea. For a non-wine drinker, what type of bourbon would pair with us? Okay, you can go 2 ways with this. With the bourbon, and I'll go back to the Somm, because with the bourbon you can go 2 ways. You can go either relatively straightforward with something like Eagle Rare. That's going to be sweet. That's going to just work really, really well. Or you can go a rye heavy blend, which is going to impart extra spice to it, right? You're going to get your baking spices, a little bit. I almost always get mint as like a note from rye, and I'd love to hear you guys that, that's kind of, for me, that's like a calling card for rye being present, like spearmint, actually, like that's present in the actual blend. I'd love to hear you guys, especially the liquor rep here. I'd love to hear his take. So Old Forester, yeah, that works great as well. And then if you go the Scotch route, there's like, you can go Dalvini, you can go Glenkinchie, you can go Glenmorangie, which is such a like catch-all. That's a cop-out answer. Glenmorangie 10 pairs with everything.
I agree.
Sorry, back to the Somm name. So going back to that, I've spent quite a bit of time in my previous career working as a Somm, wine director, beverage director, everything to do with, if it's a liquid, essentially, I know a little bit about it. So it was kind of like a reference and homage to that. And if you look at the names of the blends, BDX is shorthand for Bordeaux. Bordeaux is a famous wine region in France. Somms can be fickle as well as lazy at times, so we'll abbreviate it as BDX, hence the name of the cigar. The other one would be Rioja, famous Spanish wine region. The Blanc refers to Bordeaux, comes in both white and red variety. So reds is going to be your Cabs, your Merlots, Cabernet Franc, etc. And then your white is going to be your Sauvignon and Semillon, aged in oak, which is like the typical calling card of the region, primarily using stone fruit, almonds, and vineyard peach. Like that's the calling card, and you can nail it. Once you figure that out, you're either going to fall in love with that profile. Obviously, there are variations from the US as well that kind of hit that style. Probably one of the greatest American white wines would be Tocolon. Tocolon Sauvignon Blanc, Fumé Blanc from Mondavi. Absolutely incredible. Storied vineyard. And anyway, yes, that is the short version. What's my go-to brands when I'm not smoking my blends? In no particular order. I like what my friend Jonathan does from J London. 1502 from Enrique is also really good. I really enjoyed his emeralds. Illusione across the board. I think Dion is a genius when it comes to blending. So, yeah, those would probably be my top 3. And then I just meander. Padron, obviously. I've had the Padron in a Corona, the 1964. That is the gateway drug. That is the one that, like, if someone's never had Padron, I would give them that and say, here you go. That's going to ruin them right then and there. Actually, I forgot about Aganorsa and Terrence. I really love the Signature Gold line, especially in the Corona Gorda format. I love that. Rather than like brands as whole, I have particular blends that I really enjoy. So,
No.
RJL is asking, was there a cigar that helped inspire this blend?
Yeah, 2 cigars actually. One is one of my favorite New Age Connecticut's, which is Foundation, Nick's Highclere Castle. And I know Mike knows the story, especially in the Corona Gorda format. That is going to be closer to what the limited edition is going to be because it's a little bit fuller. Now, the other cigar that I hold is such a high, to me, this is the benchmark for light to medium cigars, Yavo XO. It's been on the market for 3 years, 20 plus at this point, probably.
Long time.
An absolute classic. Never deviates from the course. It's approachable for someone who's never had a cigar. Incredibly well blended, well crafted, incredibly complex if you're a seasoned aficionado. So if you guys ever want to test it out, literally take Avo XO, sit down and just try to dissect everything because it's really there's so much going on in there. Oh, you know what? I forgot one more thing which comes out of Davidoff's factory too. PG. I like PG, especially the old stuff.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think I've highlighted like either under the radar or things that people might have familiar or just like not regular rotation items. Except for
Yeah.
Well, let's do a check-in. Oh, go ahead, Matt. Go ahead.
I was just at Maxmar today, and they like to go deep on PG, so I picked up the Symphony 20, which is my favorite.
Very good.
Yeah.
Phenomenal, actually. Very tart pastry.
We're smoking away here. How's flavor profile for everybody? We getting any changes? Roger, you getting any developments?
Yeah, it was earlier. It's really, really good. I'm really enjoying the cigar. It's getting better for me because now the fruit note is like really apparent on the retro. Like really, really, it's really strong. I really like it. Then it was really creamy earlier, and then now I'm getting more now it's getting a little bit bolder, more of a toasted breadiness. But I really like it. It's like turning out to be a crescendo cigar for me.
Nice. Michael?
I don't think that I really have much to add to Roger's notes tonight, man. Like, he's firing on all cylinders.
Nice.
What I will say is that the toast, I also get like a little tiny hint of almost like leather or like a wood spice coming in. And those two notes are exceptional to the body and the balance as we move from the first third into the second third, especially now pairing with the port. Because it's like, I'm just enjoying, man. Sitting back enjoying.
Nice.
Could you talk a little bit more about that leather that you mentioned? To me, I'm getting more of a smoked wood note.
Yeah.
But is that like where you're going? Is that where you're...
Yeah, like I said, I mean, like leather wood spice, it's got like definitely that smoked wood kind of.
Is it aged burgundy? What we're looking for when it comes to leather here?
Yeah, exactly. Like it's
I'll take
it's very BDX-esque.
Okay.
BDS what?
Yeah.
Esque. Nice save, buddy.
Yeah. What about you, Matt? Anything changing for you on the palate?
It's the fruitiness is becoming more prominent. My brain, the way I associate it, it's like a cherry. Like it's like a cherry with vanilla cream. There's because usually with Connecticut's, I get cedar, but with this one, I'm getting oak, but it's a light oak undertone. And it's it's getting a little bit more spicy, but it's still very approachable. Even for me, like I have very sensitive sinuses, but for me, it's just becoming more prominent without becoming evasive, pervasive. It's good, and it's crescendoing, just like what Roger said. It's going well.
Felipe?
Yeah, for me, the biggest thing that's changed, it's gotten a lot sweeter for me. And with the bourbon, I didn't want to choose anything too. So the bourbon is 93 proof, 1910, and it's pairing so well together. I'm really enjoying it. The toasty note, so delicious.
Yeah, Mike.
Well, this is my first time having this in Corona Gorda. Like the one that made my top 25 of last year was a Toro. And the differences I'm noticing in this is that I feel like I got a lot more like the fruitiness off of the Toro. And this is a little bit bolder, which kind of makes sense. And I never pair when I review for my channel, but I listened to Vlad saying, or you saying Vlad said, whatever, get some sparkling wine or whatever. And it's interesting smoking it without and then smoking it with. Because if I'm not sipping on it, I get like a lightly musty, like mild oak spice on the draw. On the retro, like directly as I'm retroing, there's like a hollow nuttiness that's like nondescript with mild white pepper and some florality. But then like lingering on the palate after I retro, there's like a fuller, creamy cashew note lingering. And then on the finish, there's that same creamy, nutty note, occasionally like a hint of that light leather that Michael brought up. And then there's like almost a powdered sugary, like generic sweetness at the end with like a toasty breadiness. But if I take a sip of this, the florality on the retro really pops a whole lot more than when I don't. And it's interesting. And then the finish gets a little bit woodier for some reason. It's good.
Yeah.
Holy shit, guys! I gotta have you guys do my reviews now. do my copy for the blends, because I did everything that you can find on the website is just literally my free flowing, but you guys nailed it with such like pinpoint accuracy that's incredible. Like wow.
It's a lot of nerds on this stream, Vlad. A lot of cigar nerds.
Yeah.
A lot of nerds.
A lot of dudes that have nothing but, smoking cigars. That's it. That's all we do.
Vlad, when
So-
you make a blend, oh, sorry, Peter.
No, go ahead,
Vlad,
Roger.
when-
Take it.
When you make a blend, do you like have notes in mind that you're like, oh, I kind of wanted to have this and that, or do you just make it and then see what comes out of it?
Yes and no. I typically have an idea where I want to go. Now, do I always go like I want it to be this, and this in particular? Like I want it to have, almonds or versus cashews? No, but I typically pick a style where it's going to be like, okay, I want it to be creamy up front. I want it to have, an undertone of X, Y, Z, because that will inform which way I'm going to go blend wise, what I'm going to add or subtract. I hope, does that kind of answer the question you had? Like, yeah, it's not as specific. I want it to have particularly this flavor, unless it was Corojo, which I did for Rioja, and I'm like, I know exactly where I want to go. It's more of an overall profile as well as a direction. And I don't like throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks. But one of the blends, actually, I kind of like went through the stuff that they had right there. And I'm like, oh, I think this would go with this, but this is a project for later. Which right here.
Nice.
Yeah.
And Josh asked, yes, it is.
Yeah. Check out Small Batch, the sponsor of the show. They carry all of Vlad's goodies there. You can find what you need. That's for sure.
And the Corona Gorda is their exclusive, which was funny. And I'll tell you guys a story of how it ended up becoming exclusive. So PCA was really, really busy last year. That's when it launched. So busy that anytime they stopped by, I was, three deep. So they stopped by on the last day, and I just had 4 cigars left. It was 2 Corona Gordas, everything unbanded. So 2 Corona Gordas, 1 Robusto, 1 Toro. And Andrew from Small Batch ended up trying it and falling in love with it. So when they did place an order, it was like 2 times the amount of Corona Gordas for everything else. Now the kicker is Corona Gorda didn't release at the time. Like it was supposed to be a summer release. So I go, it's not an issue. It's more of an opportunity. So I go, hey guys, I can't, this isn't ready. And in their signature style, they go, well, how many do you have? And I go, X. They go, cool, we'll just get all of them. And that was it. So very, very interesting. I only had
Exclusive.
I only had those original, whatever 1020 that I had with me, because Brian flew in and brought them for me. And I said, hey, I want to see how well they're aging at this point, like what's going on with them. Plus, it's my favorite size, so I wanted to keep like a couple for me and like 500 people. And it just ended up turning into that. So
Didn't work out that way, huh?
Yeah.
And Nick here is asking, how many years of tobacco do you have to buy ahead of getting ready for production?
So that's a great question. I personally don't go out and buy tobacco. The factory sources it. What we do source is always 3 to 4 years worth of 3 to 4 years aged tobacco. Even though the Honduran broadleaf states 2 on the BDX, technically it was 2 years and like 8 months old. I'm a big believer in transparency, so I didn't want to call it like almost 3. So I just left it at 2. But that the subsequent, I was going to say vintage, subsequent harvest that's now in the BDX is 3 years, from harvest date to like actual use. I did fly down when that new crop was ready because we ended up buying enough of it to sustain whatever the production numbers were for that year. And then we essentially said, okay, now we're going to test the new crop. Went, pulled a bunch of leaves, smoked them, tried them, bought enough to, sustain the production. And now I had those production numbers for the following year. So typically you don't source tobaccos across the board unless it's something rare, right? If it's like, hey, I have access to, which is another bone that I'm working on, like 17-year-old wrapper, there's like 3 bales. Great. Buy all 3 of them, right? Because that's not something you can get. It's not readily available.
Sure. That makes sense. I'm just going to add, because I'm chooching along pretty quick here. And this is normally when Connecticut's get bitter for me. But it's just the spiciness, like baking spices ramping up. And I'm still getting like that honey kind of citrus note from the whiskey that I'm pairing with it too. So, I mean, that's pretty good. That's pretty good at this point.
Matt, you brought it up. I wanted to say, hey, when it comes to the pairing, I want you guys to try something. Take a puff of the cigar first, and then take a drink of whatever you're pairing with. And if you have water, just use that as a balancing agent, like so you can even it out. And then do the cigar and then the pairing, because I want to see if there's a preferred way of pairing it. And I can dive into. I mean, you guys probably know this, but it might be interesting for your viewers to like why it works that way.
Okay.
And I'll tell
do that
story, which people love.
Okay. Ben here has a question too. Wants to talk wrappers.
Yeah. Well, P Diddy's out. That one's for sure. As far as Corojo, very polarizing. People either love it or hate it. I personally love it, and I realize that it can be a polarizing wrapper. So in the Rioja, it is built around the Corojo, and the fourth piece of the blend, which is undisclosed because they've asked me not to disclose what it is. A couple of the people here know what it is, but it's built around those 2 things. Corojo for me always comes out in this primarily nutty notes where you'll get almonds, cashews, walnuts, like definitely those roasted nut profiles. And then depending on, also I get citrus on it, which is not the dominant note, but it is kind of in the background, right? And if I have to be specific, it's like this bitter grapefruit. It has a slightly higher acidity, which we almost never talk about in cigars. But actually, we have a great crew to try this out. Take a puff of the cigar and notice if your cheeks start salivating right off the bat. Like count it 1, 2, 3, 5 seconds.
Yes.
Is it like 1,
like 2
2
seconds?
5 seconds?
Pretty
It's
quickly.
like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Pretty
Okay.
fast.
It's very
Going
quick.
back to the wine world, right? Your acidity can be broadly defined as high acidity is the moment you take a sip, right? You think about your like New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc. You think about your Brut Nature Champagne. It's literally like if you don't drink wine, lemonade. The moment you take a sip, all of a sudden it just starts salivating right off the bat. So I would consider that high acidity. Basically, if it starts a minute in, or sorry, a second in. Medium plus, right? Medium high to high would be 2 seconds. Medium would be 3. Medium to low would be 4. Low would be 5 or later. Now, what that does, it essentially primes your palate for another, in the case of wine, for another bite, another sip. In the case of cigars, for another puff. It essentially just washes it out and makes you salivate and says, this is really good. So if you taste all of my blends, they all have that characteristic. Well, where they will all start making your mouth salivate within 2, rarely more than that seconds. So that acidity creeps in and it uses it as a balancing note. Because you have the ones that dry your palate, right? Like the cigars you smoke, kind of dry your palate, and then you feel like eating a chunk of dirt. You don't get this. It also helps that it's all aged tobacco. It's all properly fermented, all aged, rested after rolling as well. So everything that's rolled sits until it's at least 6 months, then it releases. Gotcha.
And Nick's saying, Vlad, can you set aside a few boxes for unbanded? And listen, just if you have the unbanded pack through small batch, I have taken care of everything. Just don't cancel your subscription, okay? We might be revisiting a certain brand in an upcoming month. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say.
Awesome. Like it.
Huh? Javier, I'll send you one.
I don't know.
He has the worst luck.
Yeah, you check this out.
Yeah.
He said it was going great. He said it was going great.
Javier is paid by a different brand to do this.
Yeah.
Javier, shoot me a note on Instagram. I'll send you a lucky pack. I'll bless it. I'll take it to whatever denomination church you want. I'll take care of it.
Javi has the worst luck with cigars. Yeah. Like during the unbanded packs, his always have tree branches in them. It doesn't matter the brand, or they just explode on him, or I don't know what's happening. But
he uses his freezer as a humidor, so
I'm not taking that one. That one's again, maybe he pissed off his postman. Like, we don't know. I know the guys take great care when shipping it out, but if the guy's reliving his quarterback dreams, blew out his knee or whatever and stuffs it in there.
Yeah. So Vlad, when you
follow it up with this,
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. No, call it out. Look, all jokes aside, if it does end up happening, please let me know. I do stand behind all my products. I don't advertise it, obviously, but hey, for anybody watching here, you ever have a bad experience with one of my cigars, whether you don't like it, whether it has a construction issue, it happens. Shit, we made 100,000 cigars last year. If 10 end up being plugged, as shitty as it sounds, it's luck of the draw, right? It happens.
Yeah.
Just please let me know. I'll make it right, and I'll err on the side of generosity because, I certainly don't want you guys spending hard-earned money and then having a bad experience. So please just let me know. My Instagram is Vlad the Somm, or even if you reach out to the Somm account itself, we'll take care of it. Sorry it happened. That's about it. Just don't use your freezer as a humidor, bro.
That's just me joking. Just jokes.
Just jokes. But yeah. So Vlad, when you're since you're so new to the market, do you want to try to have a blend for every type of smoker there is? Are you just strictly blending for your palate, what you like smoking, and not capturing the wider base?
So I don't want to be everything for everyone, because I am doing it very targeted, very much like what I have in mind. And I think that between the three of my blends, it covers about essentially 70% of what the market is, right? I don't have any flavored, I don't play in that field, so I'm not going to count that. But what I'm really missing in the portfolio, which I also said is not one of my strengths, it's just something I don't have a lot of experience either blending or smoking a lot, which is a full-bodied, full-strength, right?
Yeah, the hitter.
I'm gonna put a pepper grinder up your nose, the ruby, and just I just don't enjoy that profile. I don't enjoy a ton of nicotine, never have. So to me, it's always about the flavor. And for me, this cigar is that, right? There's no body, or no, not no body, but there's very little body. There's very little nicotine. There's nothing to. It's kind of like a Pinot Noir, right? It's all about the purity of the flavors and the fruit and terroir and everything else that's in there. It's not about the body. What I'm really missing in the portfolio is, for your wine geeks, I'm missing a prisoner. I'm missing a giant, broad-shouldered, fruit-forward, jam
the
straight
red
up.
Zen.
Yeah,
Zin forward
just,
red blend.
yeah, that's just what's really missing. And then
Yeah.
Matt, as far as this, there's 3 cigar blends. So broadly speaking, the Blanc is going to be the lightest of the 3 expressions, being Lou. Funnily enough, yes, I am working on it. In fact, I'm gonna just will it into existence. My soon-to-be distributor just got the samples today, so his business partner is trying him out hopefully this week. But yeah, as far as the 3 blends, Matt, so Blanc is going to be the lightest of the 3 in terms of body and strength, but very, very flavorful. Right on a scale of 5, it is a 5. The BDX, if you enjoy San Andreas and the Nicaraguan blends, that's probably a good starting point. The BDX is going to be the one with the San Andreas wrapper, so dark with the purple band. And then if you like your Dominican cigars and really enjoy, okay, I was going to say a brand, I don't want to do that. But if you enjoy complex, high-end, luxury Dominican cigars, I think you will really enjoy this one.
Fill the blank. Fill the blank.
Very specific without being specific. I like it.
Yeah.
Let's see.
We all thought about it out loud. Oh, come on. It's like picking your
mature
favorite
white
child.
man.
I really love this Corona Gorda. It's actually, no, it's a lie. The Premier Cru. It doesn't exist anymore, so I'm sorry, guys. That's the only cigar that was blended for me. And I'm not going to say I blended because I did not. Hendrik Kellner Jr. made it for me, and the only thing I did there was pick between the 2 blends. And Hendrik Kellner Jr. He's an absolute genius. He made that blend for me. It had over 50 years of aged tobacco, and if you ever see it, like, please buy it. It over delivers for the experience. It's absolutely incredible. There was only less than 3,000 made, so good luck. I did actually see a moment. So that cigar MSRP'd at $30. So the box was a 5-count, 7 coats of lacquer, green, everything, green, purple in the back. Essentially, it was supposed to look like a grapevine, where you have the burgundy to represent the grape, the green to represent the actual leaves, and then the wood itself to represent the trunk. That was kind of the idea behind it. If you look at the Somm logo, it actually has a bunch of grapes turning into tobacco leaves. Really detailed. I really thought about all those things. So if you do end up seeing it, I did see a box go on the secondary market for $300, which was, I was like, okay, like a little pat on the back. Like someone was willing to spend double the amount of money. Well, probably $30 now, adjusted for inflation.
Yeah.
Kind of close to the original MSRP. But no,
will that blend?
Probably
will it ever maybe come back for an anniversary or something? Or?
It wasn't something that was like, oh, we found this. No, it was a 25-year-old wrapper, or 25-year-old, 1997. So 25-year-old wrapper, binder from 2007, and then a bunch of other esoteric tobaccos, including Peruvian. It's just, there's no way to replicate it. I don't have any more of it. There was two bales and change. Like, I think it was like 2.5. So that's it. It's a one and done. I'm kicking myself for not saving any more for myself.
Peter, did you get a chance to smoke that one?
I didn't. And I was going to ask him if, because I was looking at the catalog today and I've smoked pretty much everything else, and I saw it and I was going to make a point of asking tonight. I was like, is that ever going to come back? Does anyone have one that, I'll trade with somebody if anyone's got something, but
I think I still have one left. I'll let you know.
Okay. All right.
I found 2 boxes at one of our retailers in Texas. In fact, I'll give them a shout out. Smokers Abbey, Rebecca and Ian, incredible people. If you're ever in Austin, go visit them. It's one of the lounges that when you walk in, your heart rate drops by like 5 beats. It's just serene, beautiful, these beautiful hunter green walls. The staff is incredible. The selection is great. Their regulars are amazing, super welcoming. Rebecca has a beautiful eye for design, and the restroom is amazing. So if you're ever in Austin, like, go there. Matt, I did make a Lancero, which again, good luck finding that. It was in the red, and it was in the blue blend. So the Rioja. I'm gonna hedge this a little bit. I don't think that Lancero corresponds to the rest of the blends. It is much more Corojo dominant. That fourth piece in the blending in the filler does not really highlight. I know Matt was not a huge fan.
Yes, it does.
So yeah, Mike wasn't. He we're friends, guys. So he was like, "Hey, this like isn't for me. It's cool." Okay, ex-bourbon and wine barrels. Believe it or not, yes. I want to play around with it, and in the actual, so in the Rioja blend, the Sumatra undergoes 9 months in a spent rum barrel. That's what gives you this undertone of sweetness that you would never pick up on unless, like, I actually told you where it's coming from. And that's the only tweak that we've had from a blending to like where I actually started and like what I wanted to do. That was the only tweak, and that was 50 plus years of blending experience. We're like, maybe try this. I do want to try it, and if I do, I'm gonna try and source some wine barrels. I want to play around and do. I want to age them for a little bit. In fact, I did one with. We talked a little bit about that with Matt from Smoking Tobacco, his partner or co-host. He ended up playing around with aging in a bourbon barrel, essentially infusing them and playing around with the humidity. So if I do, this is probably going to take me like at least a year to like play around and see what it does. But if I do end up using wine barrels, I have like 3 wineries in mind that I would like to source them from, which is going to be spicy.
Okay. Andrew wants to know your thoughts on companies that are not, non-disclosing their blends. Do you think it's more marketing or not, or is there a specific reason why places ask them not to disclose that?
I don't know. I'm a big believer in transparency. I don't know. It could be a choice. It could be so they can say, oh, it's hint Cuban tobacco. All right, sure. It could be a marketing. It could be a marketing thing. It could be that they legitimately don't know. Right? Like,
yeah, right.
It's not difficult to go to Nica or Honduras or wherever and walk into a factory, provided you know someone, and say, hey, I got 10 grand. I want to put my band on an existing blend. Like, what can I get? So if they get, hey, this is Dominican or this is Nicaraguan with Honduran and Nicaraguan or whatever, could be that as well. I don't know. My choice is to disclose everything, including the boxing on the BDX. Like, you can actually see it says rolled, but what it actually means is packaged on the bottom of the BDX boxes, and you'll see it. So if you go back 6 months, you'll know exactly when it was made.
Cool.
Nick is volunteering as a tribute for any testing.
Selfless, very selfless.
How do you decide wholesale MSRP? I have a dartboard in the house. No. I wish I could tell you there's like flavor wheel.
That's what we use for flavor notes. Yeah.
I don't have like a complex idea. I kind of know where I want my cigar to be and what I set out to do. So for something with 50 years of tobacco, I thought about it for probably 2 or 3 weeks on like what that final price is for the Premier Cru. And then I saw someone release a bundled cigar, undisclosed blend, undisclosed factory. It was a new brand on the market, and charging $22 for it. And I said,
reasonable for a new brand.
I said, again, why not? Like,
yeah,
I'm sure people loved it. And I said, okay,
right.
7 coats of lacquer. This cigar cost me probably 3 times as much as whatever a regular cigar costs to produce. It's going to be $30. That was it.
Yeah.
As far as everything else, I'm comfortable living in this like $13 to $16 range, which is really 8 to 12 5 years ago. The most competitive, in my opinion, price point. I believe all the cigars over deliver for their price. So I'm really looking for you to get a $20+ experience for that $15. And I think they do. Everything, most of the blends have between 15 to 25 years worth of aged tobacco in them. Everything rests for 6 months. Everything's taken care of throughout the whole journey. So that's the short answer. I do plan on releasing one more that's going to be what are the things that keep you up at night as you're building this company? Mostly my 5-month-old baby.
That'll do it. That'll do it.
Yeah, that'll do it. But yeah, that's mostly what keeps me up at night. I'm very happy that is the case. One of the reasons why I decided to try the 3D printing out is also like, okay, I planned everything out. And when you buy these boxes, and I'll buy 15 to 2,500 boxes at a time. So not a lot by any means, but enough that if there is a lag of 2-4 weeks, which is not uncommon, typically you look at those lead times like construction. So if they tell you 8 weeks, you plan on 12. The problem is when the 12 changes into 14 or 16. Right now we're going into the nitty gritty and like the background of like return on capital, right? Because everything sits for 6 months before it's boxed. But then if there's a lag, that all extends it. And it's not like I'll bring in 20, 30,000 cigars at a time and, day one, they all go out and I go for the next one. No, there's obviously like you replenish and it trickles out and stuff like that. So one of the reasons why I decided to go the 3D printing route is essentially to say, hey, I don't want to play around. I want the control where I can just, if need be, I can print out these boxes. And okay, I have 2 printers now because I'm testing it out. But it's very easy to scale. I can just buy 10 more printers, or I can find a 3D printing company. Thank God there's a billion of them. And I can like, hey, here's the files. Here's the filament that I use. Like, please make me 200 boxes. And then they'll just shovel them out and I'll have them in, a week.
Yeah. One thing I want to touch on before we get way far away from the original comment is with the price point on this thing. This year was my first full year, or last year was my first year of doing like YouTube reviews, right? So I intentionally smoked like just a ton of bangers, right? And a lot of them weren't low price points. My top 25 list, people were giving me shit. They're like, oh, this is like a billionaire's fucking top 25 list, because some of the cigars were unreasonable, right? I think the grand total of them ended up being like $800 some. And I'm like, yeah, it is kind of silly, right? But this was one of the cigars that, like I said, the Toro, I think was like number 20 or something on my list. That was like actually a reasonable price point, because it seems like at this point in my smoking hobby, I enjoy aged tobacco and milder cigars with lots of nuance. And you hit that with this cigar without being just through the roof on price point. So it does punch above its price point.
And thank you for saying that. I appreciate that. And I think you had the Atabey Black, right? Or Ritos? What did you have your first number one?
My number one was the Etafal.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
What sense? Yeah.
A little spicy. Cool.
It's aged really well. It's a lot less spicy than it used to be.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
Again, that's 6 times the
$65.
price. Yeah.
Yeah.
5
Sure.
times the price. So again, honestly, I don't mind that. I don't mind that your list is full of bangers, because if you do have the hypothetical balls to ask for, $65, it better deliver a 65+ experience. That's my take. So why is the band the same on the BDX and the Blanc? Very good question. So both of those come from Bordeaux, and I've touched upon it a little earlier. So Bordeaux is a French wine region that produces both white and red wine, as well as sweet wine. Red being the predominant, right, the more famous one of the two, and then Blanc meaning white. So white Bordeaux, your Sauvignon Semillon blend, which is going to be, lighter than the reds, obviously, but very complex, very, very rare, very beautiful. And then you have the BDX, which is Bordeaux, with your red band, which is darker. Also, the BDX has, I like I mentioned previously, I don't like mentioning the fruit flavors in cigars because they're not so often found. But the BDX absolutely has plum and raisins and this like cereal grains that are very reminiscent of a bourbon mash. So I'm comfortable saying like, yeah, this is like a Bordeaux Bordeaux inspired. Plus, it pairs like perfectly with Bordeaux.
Cereal
Whether-
grains.
Yeah.
Love it.
I love fun sizes, Vlad. So I would love to see some fun sizes in the future.
So with the fun sizes, I want to do the following. The core line is always going to be your Toros and Robustos because I primarily have the general smoking public in mind as well as our retailers. And then the limited production sizes are going to be the stuff a little bit off the beaten path, right? Your Corona Gorda, your Lancero, your box press Pyramid, your box pressed whatever. So yes, the answer is yes, they are in the future. But again, all of those, it's not like I phoned the factory and I'm like, hey, can you make a, double perfecto? It's like, no, we're going to reblend this. We're going to go back to the drawing board. We have the components, but now we're going to play until we figure out what is the best format that encapsulates what this blend is supposed to be. And the idea is not for them to be carbon copies. They can't be twins. That's not the point. They're going to be brothers or half brothers. They're going to be similar but different, right? Like one decided to go into the family company. One person decided to like travel the world or whatever, but like they still have the same, same parents.
Yeah. A
good way of
BDX
putting it.
Cortez. I could get behind that.
Tell me more about that. What is the Cortez size?
It's like
It
a
is,
fat perfecto, essentially.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the pig Vitola that Drew Estate has made popular. Placencia has done it recently. Yeah, with their Fuego and a couple others, they're coming out. But it's a
More
fun size.
taper.
Everyone seems.
More tapered at the tip, though.
I really like. You know what? I'd love to do a 109.
Ooh.
109 would probably be my format. That's like up.
I actually had a question for you, and I don't know if I've ever asked you this. Were there any Cuban cigars, being that you did your sommelier training initially in Europe, that you fell in love with when you initially started with cigar training?
Absolutely. I still hold them as one of my favorite, a couple of my favorites.
Okay.
Epi number 2, an absolute benchmark and study in a light to medium cigar that's medium to full flavor, complex, delicious, approachable, absolutely like phenomenal. I still have a soft spot, 15, 16 years later for it. Double Corona, again, Oyo de Monterey Double Corona, tuxedo of the cigar world, never goes out of style. It's like, if you see someone pull that, they're like either in the know and like they know, or someone loved them very much and like got that from them. The other would be going back to the 109, Sancho Panza Slavo, so a regional edition for Serbia. Absolutely love that cigar. Yeah, that's phenomenal. And then I love the 2007 Edmundo Dantes, which I think I've shared the story how I smoked it like not knowing what it is, and I'm like, oh cool, like it's a Tuesday. I'm just gonna up on this, walking the dog. Exactly.
So Roger does when he's painting his bathroom and stuff. He just angers.
Puffing away at Edmundo Dantes.
Particular type of tobacco I really want to work with. I want to play around with Peruvian Pelo de Oro again. I really like that tobacco, and it's definitely going to be something in the future. I am working on a Medio Tiempo version, which, right, we can dive into marketing term versus like actual differences. But yeah, it's something interesting. I'll tell you guys what I think about really once I'm done blending it. So far, I think there is some credence to it. Right, is it just like a fuller version of Ligero? Probably. But again, it's on my little study on like how to make a fuller cigar.
And Nick wants cabinets. He wants cabinets of 50. Do we have that on the horizon?
I actually did. I wanted to do it for TP to showcase it. And you guys have seen the wine crates, right? The wooden boxes where, especially like high-end Napa, high-end Bordeaux come in. I wanted to do that. So it would be reminiscent of what a wine would come in, right? So you would have the logos on the side. It would be engraved. It would be done in 3D printing with one of those. It might be a cabinet where it's like a selection, and whether it's like one-off sizes or the rare things or something else. I haven't fully thought about it, but yeah, that is an option. I also have a little Volt humidor that I still need to print and test out. It does look like a little treasure, a little Volt, like you like with the whole spinning and everything, like you can open it. So I just have to print it, test it for a tightness, and like make sure that it works.
Okay. Take my money, he said. Whittleback,
And then
if you have a go-to palate cleanser in between sticks.
Bleach.
The white monster.
The white monster.
That's right. Yeah, just between punching a wall in between. Just water, spicy water. Like I drink a ton of just carbonated water. I don't drink sodas. And I always I'll crush like that Costco case of 30. I'll probably crush at least one of those a week, just casually, like keep myself hydrated. You know, see my glowing skin here in Vegas. That's
yeah. Vegas is a little different humidity than Serbia. So.
Yep, a little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. Favorite heritage brand? Could you expand on that, Raf? Like, what do you mean by heritage? Are we talking, family owned? Are we talking like STG? Like, what are we?
Get some clarification.
Let's see.
Man, this is good. I'm not gonna drop it. I'm gonna burn my lips.
I finished
same.
mine out, and the closest thing I had next to me was a hanky from KBF. So
yeah, I love that.
That's what got lit up.
I love the story behind it. It's a very classic cigar, very classic Dominican cigar. I love his orange blend. His orange blend. If you ever see those black, his LEs. He only made 150 boxes or whatever it was. The Grand Toros. That's
the black silver.
Yeah,
very good. Do you want to touch on any of the factories that you use for your blends, so the guys know where their tobaccos are coming from?
So Cavalier or FTC. It's in Honduras. They make both of the Bordeaux lines. Eladio Diaz in Dominican Republic makes the Rioja, and I'm very, very proud of that. Very happy with it too, because this was, I think I was brand number 2 or 3 to make something out of that. I wouldn't have done that if it wasn't for Henry Kellner, who introduced me and said, "Hey, he's cool. See if you can do something with it." I'm very happy. They're a phenomenal factory to work with. They obviously have a little bit of experience after his dad working in Davidoff for 50 years.
Just a little bit.
It's a little bit of experience there. And they're just, Manny is incredible to work with. He's always on it. If they say Tuesday, it actually just it happens on a Tuesday. It's not Tuesday 3 weeks from now. They're really on point. They're just great to work with. In fact, so this cigar, and I hope they won't be angry if I share this with you guys. So
no one's watching.
For his dad's anniversary, yeah, that's right. I'm gonna kill this. That's it.
And the stream, Pete. And the stream.
So for his dad's cigars, they ended up using tobacco grown in the southern regions, which weren't farmed up until recently. I've never had those, and because of the baby, I couldn't really fly to DR. So I asked him to send me both some burritos to try out, as well as ideas for the blends. I gave him the ideas where I want to go, just as a little sampling. And he said, "Okay, I'll incorporate it, but I wanted to make sure that it's the star of the show." Now, I want to be I've never smoked this before, so this is the first one. And I'm hey, send me some stuff, just because I can't get there. But I will go soon and spend some time blending on it. So I want to try it and see if it's something interesting, because I ask the same questions to every factory that I work with. What do you have that's rare, old, or unique? That's always been the thing. What do I add to the conversation by making another, San Andreas with Nicaraguan binder and Nicaraguan filler? Probably not a lot. Probably not a lot. But if you look at the BDX, it uses Honduran broadleaf. If you look at the Blanc, it uses 4 different fillers for a Connecticut. If you look at the Rioja, it uses the Mexican Sumatra that's been rum barrel aged, and then that 4th, which I can't expand on, right now, but it is something very unique. It's like less than like 1% of plantings, so it's like really rare, really hard to come by. And it is, you know, for 2018 when it was 2019 actually when it was rolled. So yeah, interesting stuff.
Do you have an approach to aging sticks?
I have to be honest, I haven't done extensive aging on my cigars. I do have some boxes from the original run of the BDX, and this is broad. Like I haven't done, like there's no type of like scientific approach to any of this, but I can tell you from my experience where those changes typically happen. So for cigars, and we're talking about post-roll aging, right? Once they're done, the development of those tertiary flavors, and I'm going to go back. So primary, you're going to be from your blending, right, from your tobaccos. Then the secondaries are going to come from, perhaps I'll hit on an alcoholic right after this. So your primary flavors are going to come from your tobacco. Your secondaries are going to come from their intermarrying, right, their actual blending, and then post-roll rest. And I want to differentiate rest from aging. I consider rest anything under a year. So all my cigars get rested for, and I know it's a pedantic thing, but I don't consider 6 months aging. That's like rest. That's your recovery from being put together. So secondary develops from their intermarriage, and once everything kind of like aligns and rests and combines together, and then your tertiary notes develop from aging. Your actual patina, and I don't mean my good buddy Mo, but patina from time, right? Like your tertiary notes are what actually develops when you wait for those 3 years. So the first change happens between 3 and 4 for me. Second development of those tertiary flavors are between 6 and 7. Then again, another 10, and then 12, and then 15. Now I base those on probably smoking a couple of thousand of those like 3 to 4 year age cigars, probably less than 1,000 of those like 7 and above, 10 and above, probably a couple of hundred. And again, it's not like I've had, have a perfect box that I have the provenance. It's been sitting in someone's freezer, maybe Javier's for like a decade. It's very hard to get like a single box that's just, start to finish.
Yeah.
And then 12 and 15 plus, I mean, probably less than 100, right? And I did smoke a PG actually from like 1996, which is amazing. Like I smoked the whole box. That was really good.
Did you get a chance to read his book?
PG, yeah. I read the first one. I know they did a re-release right recently.
Yeah.
That was really cool. That was really, really good.
I always loved when he talked about like the additional fermentation that Cuban cigars all undergo while they're in the box together after they get to their like final destination, or at least one of their final destinations, the consumer.
It's definitely interesting. Pardon me just a second. Okay. Non-alcoholic pairings. So there's one that I do with events, and it's very, very fun. I recommend trying Lapsang Souchong, which is a smoked tea. And it's a choose your own adventure experience. And if anybody wants to see it, like, please drop your email or a note, or we'll figure out one way, and I'll send you an exact, like, hey, here's a little step-by-step. Here's the background on it. And like, this is how you make it. It's not expensive. I suggest getting loose leaf tea rather than tea bags. It's just higher quality. And essentially
probably the closest that you can come to Isla Scotch in a tea form.
Yep. And I actually, please, Lagavulin, don't come after me, but like you can, I jokingly call it the fake Lagavulin, because if you leave it to steep for like 5 to 7 minutes, you can get to that smoky, peaty, Isla driven profile. Aside from that, sodas work great. There's quite a selection of non-alcoholic stuff, including you have like non-alcoholic wines now as well, which I should probably do a little bit more research. Liars is out of Australia. That's actually pretty good. If you want to go a little more higher end, you have French Bloom, which is a non-alcoholic sparkling wine. I don't want to call it champagne, but it does come out. It's made by Billicard Simon, the famous champagne house, and it's interesting to see how they essentially had to retool the way they do things, especially at that level. Then Bolts has a line of non-alcoholic. Can you remind me, Mike? What's the name of it? Rob does
Ooh,
it.
yeah, the Bulls line is called, because I actually forget too, because we don't distribute it. But I'll look it up for you. So I'm right
Please.
here. It's oh no, I'm in Swedish right now. Hold on.
So it's funny because, right, for distillers especially, when you remove the alcohol component, alcohol is a preservative, right? Like things can't spoil because it has such a high content of alcohol where nothing can essentially grow. It's essentially no bacterial spoilage can happen. So for them, they had to kind of retool the whole process, and they treat it as a food product rather than an alcohol product, because now it can actually spoil, and you have to like put expiration dates. Because if you have a 80 or 40% or 80 proof, like that's not spoiling.
Fleur is the name.
Fleur, that's right. Anything else? Pairing with water. Not all water is equal. Yeah, that's fair. And I've done a water training as well, which is probably the most pretentious thing I've done in my life. But having to blind taste differences between like Evian, Voss, Aquapana, San Benedetto, and everything else, and having the differences between the acidity, the dry content they have, the mineral content, all of these different things do impact it. If I like San Pellegrino, like specifically for sparkling water, because it's the aggressive bubbles. And when we talk about the sparkling water, it is carbon injected. Oh, Topo Chico as well, right? Like you get, it's CO2 injected rather than being naturally, I think you guys have said crescendo so many times, and I drop it like as the high point where the cigar climaxes. And I'm like, I think that's such a really good name for a cigar if somebody hasn't already done it. So as soon as we're off this, I'm going to reach out and see if we can do trademark it right away. But it'd be something cool because, like I said, San Pellegrino, if you want something lightly sparkling, you can do Mountain Spring. Mountain Spring is amazing in that green bottle. And then I like Voss a lot. They're still and sparkling. And what else? I'm blanking. Oh, San Benedetto. San Benedetto is naturally sparkling as well. So they're like lightly frizzante, very, very, very soft, very elegant bubbles. And that's not CO2 injected. So that comes naturally carbonated. Hope that answers the question.
There you go. And Nick is asking, how hard is it to keep up with the consistency and the changes in tobacco from crops year after year? So
there is a challenge, but so far the consistency has been on point. My biggest, and I touched upon this a little bit earlier, my biggest fear was Honduran broadleaf, because I had one crop to work off, and then the second crop came in, and if it was like diametrically different, I would simply just stop making or like try to really reblend it. And I would come out and say, hey, like this is not. Luckily, I tried them essentially side by side, and I'm not going to say it's a carbon copy because it's agriculture and stuff is never a carbon copy, but it was about as same as you can get. I think blending is more akin to what champagne does. So you always keep like a little bit of reserve wine when you're making champagne to kind of ensure consistency. And I was really, really lucky years ago to attend this Veuve Clicquot tasting where they did non-vintage, right? The basic yellow label that you can get anywhere. Right, anywhere from your local Walmart, Target, whatever, to maybe not Walmart, I don't know, but Costco for sure. Like you can get that, and I've had stuff from like early '90s all the way to I want to say like 2010s, and it essentially tasted the same. Yeah, there was a little bit more age, right, from all that, but essentially it tasted the same. The profile was the same, and the whole reason why they showed it to Assange was the only difference they did is. As the years ended up getting warmer, they improved their farming practices, and they managed to bring the overall amount of sugar in there, because brut is going to be 8 to 12 grams, 8 to 12 grams of sugar per liter. They managed to essentially go down on the amount of sugar, but still keep the same level of sweetness profile just because of the warmer years over the decades. So interesting, and better farming practices, of course.
So then what maintains the sweetness if the sugar content is down?
So because they managed to get the ripeness of the grapes, essentially the flavor that comes from the grapes themselves mimics the sugar, that 1 or 2, 3 grams of sugar, and they managed to lose like a third of the sugar. So now it's like 8 or 9 grams instead of 12.
Okay.
Interesting. Anyone on the panel have a question before I just keep plowing through all the questions in the chat? You guys have anything you want to throw in?
I mean, they've got good questions in
They do.
chat.
They do. The chat is chugging
Keeping it
along.
rolling.
Yeah, and as far as packaging, Old Fogies wants to know, like, how challenging is that, Vlad? Is what's easier, blending a cigar or coming up with the packaging? Because sometimes it looks like some companies put more focus on the packaging than they do the cigars.
Yeah.
So we do, going back to food, like we do eat with our eyes. So if stuff looks nice, you're going to have a better experience. If the bottle is heavier, like you're going to think it's more premium. Like look at what Beats did, right? Made heavy headphones, turned into $1 billion company. I have an idea of what they want to do, and going to the packaging, like if you look at the BDX, it's this royal, it's actually called Byzantium purple, which is this dark burgundy, Bordeaux, like dark red, and it corresponds to what the wines are. If you look at Rioja is blue, and if you Google Rioja classification, you'll actually see that corresponds to the Gran Reserva line. So the Gran Reserva classification, which is this dark midnight blue with silver lettering, and that's kind of the idea behind it. With and there's a little bit of subtle shading on the bands themselves. It's raised, it's embossed. There's all these different things. So I try to take care of it. It's obviously not the main focus, but it's supposed to correspond to the story that I want to tell. It's supposed to correspond to the brand. That's why, going back to effort, I spent 2 months fooling around with the 3D printing until I got the design right. And the design had to be right because I wanted to make sure that it translates and that it corresponds to what the wooden boxes are. I wanted to make sure that the blend is there. I wanted to, if someone wants to take their finger, it's embossed, it's raised, it's premium. In fact, I'll show you guys. Give me 1 second. I'll show you one more color that I wanted to play around with Bordeaux. Give me like 30 seconds.
Sounds good.
No problem.
Let's check in with everybody. What are you guys smoking now? Like I said, I lit up the hanky from KBF.
Chamale, bro.
Chamale, that's dope.
I didn't
Got
grab
the
one yet.
Rioja.
Should probably do
That's
that.
my Stranza.
Nice.
So that's kind of the idea with the Bordeaux. So that's the Byzantium purple. And then this is the other version, which I really like. It's not what I was looking for. It's just like plum purple. I really like it. I can't think of any cigar with a purple thing on them apart from the Aganorsa like Supreme Leaf, right? Does anything else come to mind?
Namakubi.
The Namakubi.
Oh,
21.
that's right. And then Alex, at the Rioja blend. The Rioja blend, I've told people what it is, but they've just asked me not to because it's some kind of like everything else is disclosed. Like you can find in all the boxes.
I'll tell you
Yeah,
offline, Alex.
Yeah, and then you can see this. So this is actually raised. Like you can see my finger. Like this is raised. You can see the grape bunches turning into tobacco leaves. It still says selective by choice, which kind of informs everything we do, what tobacco we use, who we work with, how we work with. Everything else. I mean, it informs everything. It's solid. Not quite what I was looking for, but the blend's cool.
How often does that happen, right? When you're blending something, you put something together, you think it's going to be good, and then it's got to go through that, marinating process. And then when it comes to you, you're like, this is not what I wanted, but it's not bad, or it's completely off.
So the origin, I have a blend in mind that's called, it's called Napa Cab. So I might just abbreviate and just call it Cab, both to refer to like a cabinet or Cabernet. I put it as a note, like I figured out what I wanted to, but it's not what I set out to make at that point. So I'm like, okay, let me refocus and like work on the Blanc because that's what I wanted to nail. But I was like, this is good. Revisit, I have a blending book. And I said, okay, this is something that I want to work on. So I've taken a couple of stabs at making different iterations, both size-wise and blend-wise, where I'm like, okay, add a half leaf here, take a half leaf out, add a different priming and kind of trying to nail it. So it happens. But like I said, I don't just like throw stuff at the wall. I kind of come in with an idea. This is what I want to do. And so far it is, it has worked out.
Very cool. And do the factories that roll your cigars also make the boxes, or is that just a completely separate process?
Separate entity, separate process, which is again another part of the supply chain, right? Like you got to coordinate. Cavalier does not have their box factory, neither does Eladio Diaz. I use LFD's factory for DR, and then another factory in Honduras that's like close by, and or we'll use Oscar's depending on. Again, if Oscar's backed up, then like we'll use a different company.
Gotcha.
Cool.
And Nick wants to know if you've ever thought about adding a footband on the Blanc. It would help while he's grabbing stuff out of his humidor.
Nick, we're trying to keep the Blanc cost down, bro.
Yeah. Stop adding money to our cigars.
You want him to change
drives
the band?
Nick
You want him to add the
nuts.
band? Come on, Nick.
It didn't cross my mind. I thought about.
Vlad, will you take the band off the Blanc, please?
I will. I might, you know what? I'm gonna take out the wine, the one that's meant to represent the wine label. I'm just gonna take that out.
Yeah.
It would help. That's great.
We can call it the
I'll
Garagiste, bro. Being that Illusione failed at that, so we can call it the Garagiste.
I'll see if I can 3D print you one, which you can like use it as a little pincer.
Yeah.
Have you 3D printed any like wine pourers, like the closable tops or anything for wine bottles?
No, but that's tell me more. I gotta pick your brain on that. I want to see.
I'll talk to you offline about it.
Sure.
Interesting. Now we're just getting requests. What about a shaggy foot? Have you ever played around with shaggy foot, Vlad?
How much money, Vlad? How much money can you spend, Vlad?
Vlad's Customs.
Will do. I'll shoot you an email. Shaggy foot, I think it's a cool thing to do, especially if you have a wrapper binder that you want to highlight. That's not a bad idea. So I think I mentioned it to you, Mike, what I want to do. I have the 17-year-old wrapper that I want to play around with. And because we bought 2 bales, right? So it's going to be a couple of thousand cigars. But because the way you buy tobacco is just, you buy wrapper, but it doesn't really end up as wrapper. Like you might get some binder in there, you might get binder filler. It works the other way around, right? You'll pay X. Wrapper is the most expensive, but if you buy binder, if you have a good sorting operation, which FTC does. So I'm just going to throw numbers just to put it in perspective. Like let's say wrapper costs $10, but the binder costs $5, and then the stuff that's filler costs $3, and you buy, a kilo of each, but then in your binder you find some wrapper leaves. Your cost obviously goes down because they just snuck through. That's how they organized it. Same for the filler, but on the wrapper, like you are gonna end up with some binder for sure. And I always remember Hendrik when I asked him, like, when sorting, like, how do you differentiate if you buy all wrapper? Like, how do you differentiate what's a wrapper, what's a binder? So he takes a pen out, stabs the wrapper, and goes, "That's now a binder." I'm like, okay. So what I really want to do on that is, I already have the name for the blend, which it's going to be Syrah and Shiraz. Syrah or Shiraz are just same names for depending on where they're grown. So Syrah is going to have the wrapper on the outside. Shiraz is going to have that as a binder. So stuff that doesn't make the cut as a binder, as a wrapper, it's going to be on the binder, and we're just going to invert it. So technically, they're going to be different blends. So I might do a shaggy foot on that. That might be something interesting. I haven't thought about it, but that's a good idea because I really do want to highlight right about that.
There you go.
Yeah, Sips and Sticks, Catena Malbec, $20 or less. High altitude winemaking, absolutely incredible. I always try to have a bottle or two at home. Absolutely over delivers for the money. That's my pick for, like, Catena. Just doesn't miss. Third generation now. What is that? You probably remember, Mike. Like a couple of years back, they won Most Admired Brand of the World by Wine Spectator, which is amazing. And they have stuff going from like $20 all the way to like $300-400. and like
It's
across the board,
fantastic.
amazing.
Fantastic.
It's like that is a wine that, like, your mom, if she doesn't drink wine, she's gonna love it. Your like friend that doesn't drink wine, they're gonna love it. Someone who's a real aficionado, like someone who has a multi-billion-dollar seller or multi-million-dollar seller, is gonna be like, yeah, this is solid. Like, it's just phenomenal.
Sal wants to know if you smoked that Davidoff Grand Cru Diademas that he gave you at the lounge a few weeks ago.
I have not, sir. It's actually, I just looked at it today when I pulled the Corona Gorda Blanc. This is my third or fourth cigar that I smoked this week, so I haven't had a chance. But I've looked at it. I'm like, I'm gonna treat myself.
It's very good.
Mhm.
It's very
Smokable?
good.
Very good.
It's very
Yes.
good. I believe that cigar is aged in wine barrels. Correct? Anyone?
Yep.
Yeah.
The Diadema specifically, not the regular Grand Cru.
Gotcha.
Which was a worrying moment when I called it Premier Cru, but I'm like, fighting words, fighting words.
Right.
That also means different things depending on which region of France you go into.
Ah.
Grand Cru versus Premier Cru. Because Grand Cru will be in your top notch in your Burgundy, but Premier Cru will be in Bordeaux and vice versa and stuff. I already have a Maduro, which is the San Andreas, but Pinot Noir is not a bad idea. That's another thing that I wanted to do. Variations. Okay. Now I'm like giving you guys a roadmap for a couple of years down the line. So if you go into Pinot Noirs, there's in varietals, you have clones. And you have, for Pinot Noir, you have like 667, 117, Venti clone, Dijon, etc. So one of the things I wanted to do is grab Havana 2000 versus Havana 2020, make the same exact blend with essentially different varietals, and then call it Pinot Noir, Dijon or whatever. I don't think anybody has a Dijon cigar. I know I wanted to do Côte de Nuit and Bone and stuff like that, but I think Pete got ahead of me there. Oh man, where's Javier now?
Mm.
I'm in it too.
He went back to his freezer to pull something else out.
Pulled the Rioja out. He said it's going great.
There you go.
This is cool. I gotta tell you guys, this is cool. This is not. I don't think it's on production, but the flavor profile on this tobacco is awesome.
Well, when it gets closer to release, you'll have to let us know. We'll have you back on. We'll do a little launch party here for you.
Oh yeah.
Heck
I might do the same with when the pyramids are ready. It's gonna cost, if I send each of you guys a 5-pack, that'll cost the other people. Well, it'll make them even harder to find. How about that? And then Mike,
That's what we like.
Not really my cup of tea.
No.
All right. Well, we're getting close to the end here. Vlad, is there anything else that we didn't touch on that you want to let everyone know about?
No, not really. Thanks for having me on. I always appreciate the questions. I hope it was fun and I answered all your questions. And I'd love to come back and we can nerd out. You guys have exceptional palates, so if we ever want to do it, like, hey, the tasting side of it,
Okay.
we can make it fun and have tasting booklets that we can send out to you guys. You can send it to your viewers, and we can be like, make it a fun experience.
Okay. I think we got some last minute questions coming in here. Terrence is a high proof bourbon guy, typically doesn't do wines. You have recommendations on that end?
I'm gonna need Mike's help here. Elijah Craig does a single barrel that's like 57, like 100 something proof, right?
Yes, they do.
Okay, so that is an exceptional pairing across the board for one single reason, if nothing else. I have to highlight the skill that you can put something at hundreds. I think it's over 110. I think it's like 114 proof. That tastes incredibly elegant. I have nothing but respect for someone to be able to put that together, just straight out. You don't need ice, you don't need anything. It's an incredible option. There's obviously a bunch of other ones, but I'm talking about like something readily available that you can literally walk down to your liquor store and have it. Yeah.
My wonder for Terrence is if he was suggesting a wine that he would like as opposed to a high proof bourbon, or if he was asking for a high proof bourbon recommendation. So if he clarified
maybe
that.
I missed it. Yeah, please clarify. Yeah. I may have misunderstood the question.
And Javi, you're saying send a wine list to me, and I'll post it on our Discord where everyone chats and
even better,
some pairings on their own.
Shoot me an invite on the Discord. I'll post it for you guys.
There you go.
Like, okay. I'll add all the recommended Vegas restaurants too if you want.
Yeah, we can do that.
List.
I want to see this list.
Yeah.
Oh man,
Ready for some nonsense? Join.
Yeah. The Discord's a fun place, but Sal's asking if you can go into the Kellners a little bit, their understanding of tobacco.
I don't know, man. The guy's a savant. I have like two really good stories that I shared with Sal. We were sitting there and we're walking through the factory and he just picks off 2 cigars, like doesn't do anything, doesn't look at it, like doesn't touch it. He's walking by and puts 2 cigars to the side as part of like the quality check. So I grabbed it. I don't say anything. Grab the 2 cigars, put them in my pocket, and we walk through, go for the storage, everything else. We sit upstairs, have coffee. So I pull the cigars out. I'm like, Hendrik, what's wrong with these cigars? He goes, they're underfilled. I'm like, how the fuck do you know they're underfilled? Like you didn't touch them, you didn't weigh them, you just like you're walking by and you're like, this is off. So sure enough, they bring the little kitchen scale, right? And it was off by, I forget, it was like 2-3 grams, like under what it was supposed to be. And I'm like, all right, okay, this could have been like a gringo, but like I've known him well enough that it's not, right? It's just like he knew. And the closest I can, that savant level talent and that you possess is, I think I made the comparison to like baseball players or tennis players, because when you have a ball coming at you at like 100 miles an hour and your brain's making a calculation where your bat exactly needs to be, like that's incredible. Like your brain just goes autopilot and makes all these calculations. So just really incredible. And then the other one was someone was bringing him some new tobacco to try, and he's sitting like here to maybe like 12, 15 feet away. He's coming up the stairs. He goes, that won't burn. And I'm like, how the fuck could you know this? Like, there's no, like, how? And I'm like, how do you know this? He's like, I don't know. That's just what I think it is. True enough, he pulls out a torch, holds it, and right, we're not talking about the flavor profile. We're talking about the technical aspects that the tobacco has to possess. One of them is combustion. So he holds it and he counts 1, 2, 3, and he passes 7 seconds. And about 9 seconds, it starts actually burning. And he goes, yeah, they either didn't farm it properly or they didn't ferment it properly. And I'm like, how?
Yeah.
Just knows. He just knows.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thoughts on Hall wine?
We had a great time visiting. It was awesome. Very
cool.
We're talking about the Hall Cabernet, right? Let me just Google before I put my foot in my mouth.
But that'd be fun. We'll get you in the Discord. Maybe we can do a couple nights where we do pairings with you too. We'll schedule a time. The guys can get some Somm Cigars. We'll get some alcohol and go through a whole gamut of things.
One of my favorite white monsters, definitely S tier. Out of all the flavors, like pairs well with gypsum walls. Yeah,
That's hilarious.
like really
That
good.
is-
I think
That is Johnny OCD to a T.
100%. That and like low sugar or zero sugar. What's the sugar-free Red Bull? Like in the little
Yeah.
light blue. Like,
Oof.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, anyone else got anything else on the panel for Vlad before we head out?
Oh, sir. Great cigar, Vlad. Thank you.
Thanks.
It was fun.
Thanks
Yeah,
for
man.
making bomb
Awesome
cigars,
having you on.
Vlad. Yeah.
Appreciate it, guys. Oh,
Yeah,
we should have
it was awesome.
nerded out about movies again.
Oh, we're mindful of your time. We don't want to keep you up too late.
So someone actually stopped me yesterday and the day before. No, yesterday. No, day before. I had like 3 or 4 different people stopped me and tell me that I look like the Russian actor that ended up winning for Oscar for one of his roles or something. And I'm like, I have no idea what you guys are talking about. And he's like, no, look. And like people took pictures. I'm like, okay, cool.
You should have just started autographing things for them.
Charging too. I
You
should
should
have
be like, that's me. I'm on vacation.
Was this on the strip? No.
I was in California, so it was really, really good.
Oh, okay.
You just faked it, bro.
I should have. Yeah, no. If I roll down the strip and someone stops me, be like, "Oh yeah, yes, my friend, $50 picture."
Awesome. But we appreciate your time, Vlad. It's awesome having you on. Anytime you want to come back, man, you want to let us know what's coming up, or you know, you got something in the works and you want to hop on and just smoke some cigars, let us know. We'll make it happen.
Hell yeah, I'd love to.
We'll get you on the Discord and plan some future events too.
Oh yeah, that'd be awesome. I'll shoot Mike I don't even know what my Discord username is, so probably Vlad the Somm or something like that.
I'll send you the link. It's probably something like Nuka Cola.
Are you a Fallout guy?
Something from
yeah,
Fallout?
there's like always a variation of nicknames that I'll use for just like in general when I can't come up with it. It's either going to be something like Nuka Cola or Mental Block, because I had my first Gmail account that I ever made was like when you had to get an invite. So that's how old that account is.
God.
So literally like ancient. I couldn't come up with a name, so I just did Mental Block. And I'm like, I can't come up with anything. And I'm like, I got a total mental block. And I'm like, oh, I wonder if that's available.
There it is. Makes sense.
Yeah, I'll send you the link, buddy.
Yeah, we'll get you on there. We'll plan some stuff in the future. But everybody in the chat, thanks for hanging with us. It was awesome having you on, Vlad. We appreciate it. Thanks for making awesome cigars. And
I'll throw one more in there. I'll throw a 5-pack of the Corona Gorda. Oh, sorry, the Corona Gorda. The BDX Toros. I don't know. You guys pick. Maybe everybody who attended, like, put it in RNG or spin it to win it, and just send me your info, and I'll happily send that one out.
Sounds good. We'll put a little raffle together in the Discord. Yeah, sounds good.
Hell yeah, awesome.
All right, everybody.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it was our pleasure. Thanks for coming on. It's always fun having you on, man.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's it, guys. Anything else?
That's it.
I think we're good.
Good to go.
Good.
All right, Vlad. We'll see you in the next
guys.
one. Everybody in the chat, thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you guys later.
Thanks again, guys.
Later, guys.